Hello, welcome. Hope it's doing wonderfully today, tomorrow, whenever you're watching it, evening, afternoon. Hi, let's make sure my audio's on. Yep, it is. I'm JoeG with Agno. Thanks for watching. If you've been watching for a while, or at least the last couple of weeks, I've been working on this, converting this older app that I have called Event Meetups, used to track parties and events happening at conferences anywhere. Lots of different parties that happen. This is a sample of the site. There are lots of different parties that happen. This site was meant to track those parties and events so they're happening. So the last couple of days or now, we've been slowly but surely upgrading the app, or more so migrating it from .NET Framework 4.5 to .NET 5. And I kind of re-architected it for etc. So last week, or actually earlier this week, Thursday now, Monday, I implemented the mapping. I can show you on the public site, but it's not working. Being map SDK that I used to use on this is no longer applicable. So it doesn't work. But we spent most of the day working on that. And then Tuesday, we were wrapping it up. So the idea is we wanted to have push pins. This is the Azure sample. Something like this without the pulse that kind of shows you where all the events are. Very similar to what this looks like. When we left it on Monday, I had the API almost there, but I had trouble getting it working to return the JSON prompt. I eventually figured it out like I thought I would right afterwards. Got it working because I thought I had it working. Tuesday, we spent the day trying to figure out why it wasn't working. I had it working Monday. So most of Tuesday was trying to get it to work, and I just said, stop, need a fresh set of eyes on it. And managed to get it to work right. And I got it to work in what feels like a hacky way, but it works nonetheless. So right now, the method returns list of strings that we return back a list of strings. Then the API converts those strings into an object, which is just weird, but the serialization worked. I probably am doing it wrong, but I got it to work and fine and works. So when we run our API now, switch the API project, and run it. This is the main API, but what we want is this one that we wrote. And the purpose for this one is this lists out all the events in something format, which is essentially JSON. It's just add specifics around geography coding. So this one says we are essentially adding a feature. It's the type that it's a little control plus. We are adding a feature, which is a geometry feature, which has a type of point, and this point has the following coordinates: it's latitude, longitude, latitude. Then there's custom properties. For this particular case, we are passing in an event ID of 99 and the event name. Use the event name to show a label, and then the event ID to be able to view details. Let's see it actually working now. walk through some of that code. Let's go back here, do that project, debug, even though I'll play. I'm not going to do it now. Knock on wood, hopefully. And as soon as we get thrown out to that new version of here, we will, zoomed in now. Fortunately, you can't zoom in an individual page. Let's go to this one. This is the event we've been working with. So this is familiar. If we go to the more details, see it should show on the map here. I probably should put a push pin on this map, but now if we go to the full map, we see a list of all the events here. I changed this from showing the event number to just using the word center. And you'll see here now that there are individual events like Tech Ed Closing Party, Jam Session, so through meet and greet, etc. So these are all the ones that are listed as. Probably going to add the ability to filter by date so you can see. I only want to see the things on the 4th because that's the night I'm free. We'll probably want to sort these by date and by event number. Sorry about this. For some reason, this is geocoded right in the water, but it's not. It supports all the basic map things that you see if you go to. We also added in controls that allow zoom in, changing the pitch, 3D mode. We go to scales. Another feature is if you, let's say your hotel is somewhere over here in East Carrollton, and you're looking at it, you want to see where the Ask the Experts are. You can click Ask the Experts, and that will be centered in the current view. Oh, it's probably the same expert. Do the Windows Community Party. That centers screen. Now it's centered into the current view, which is the box. And then if I click on any of the events, it pops open that. So once I got that feed working, it was relatively easy. I say relatively easy because it was just pretty much read the document, implement it, hit run, make sure it worked, rinse and repeat for all. But let's go with a quick step-by-step guide as to what we did. So right now, everything is in the map.cshtml. And the reason why it's all in there is I wanted just one place to build and test it. So probably over the weekend, I'll factor this out into its own JavaScript file because I don't want to have them mixed together. Let's take a look at the initialization of the map. I started off with a separate variable for map because we use a couple of different plots now, not just the init. I'll talk about these two. We initialized the map like we did before, which has a center, which is the conference latitude, longitude, and latitude. So that says center the map in these coordinates. We're getting the level of zoom at 14, which is that current view. You can go from 1 to like and the aught. So this hasn't changed. Started. I then went and added these controls. So the map, you can add controls, and any of these are configured. So I can add a zoom control, compass, pitch, style. I just decided to add them all. And that's all I had to do. The real work came within the map ready event. In the past, the map ready event only had this, which was the map loading, hiding it. So once the map was fully loaded, we just hit it and by. All this code here I had running outside of the map already, but then errors saying initialize, etc. So I edited it all in. So what happens, this ready event gets fired when the downloaded and loaded and your description is validated. Start edit. So the first step is you need to create a data source. That's what this line is, line 50. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Oop, didn't do that. Hit the button. What's the zoom here? Oh, where is it? Go. New Windows. Maybe not. I can change the font. I'll leave it like that for now. See it if the future. So we create a constant called events data, which creates an empty data source object. We then tell the data source object to import the data from the URL. This gets a map pin. Specify here. The map pin URL is that API call that I showed before. So meetups/for/conference ID current event at /geo. That gets a list of all pinpoint or map pins. We then add it to the layer. That just says that this particular, or sorry, that adds that map source. So now we have a data source, but we're not doing anything with the data source. Next step is for us to add a layer. So if you think about a map, it's three-dimensional where there's multiple layers. You have the first layer, which stands flat like this, which is map itself. So this is the streets, and then we throw a push pin on top of it, just rest, and apparently just the push pins. Then you can add another layer on top with we only went with the symbol layer. That's what we do on line 50. Create a new pin layer. And the reason why they're two separate lines, in theory, I can just, put on line 61. I was trying to obviously refactor this into this is just a little bit. So by default, you can just create a symbol, add any options to it, and it allows you to add stuff to it. I say by default, or when I'm initializing this symbol, like advanced data. So take that data source that we built, which is that API call, use that to draw your symbols. The null indicates the identifier of the. So in theory, I could have said event map. This one. Since we have a reference to the map right here, we're in the map event, it's just easier for us to. Then we set some text options. Text options allow us to override underneath that pin. Because initially underneath that pin will be blank. Now we're saying for the text option, I want you to set the text field, this line here. And for the text field, I want you to use what's called the data expression in this line here, which says get the property called event name. So if we look at our API call here, look at our API call here, which I closed. So let's just go to Geo. We're going to look for the property called event name and use this field here, Tech Ed Expo. And that is what you here. So this text field says get in the event name. Then we're doing an offset of nothing to the left, which means center it in the middle of the pin, but take it down. So this could depend on your resolution or want, but by default, the 0, 0 is in the center of that image. I wanted to drop it a little bit so it wasn't. You can see the pin on top. You can put that number default as 0. So now we built out this pin layer on line 50. Now have to add it to the layer. Or sorry, we have to add layers. That's what we do on 61. Say this for this map, take the layers collection and add a pin layer. So that draws all the pins. And because we have the text options, it puts that text above that. Since we wanted to handle a map event, we want to handle click and open up a window for it. We added a event called the click event, or so we didn't add the event. We're adding a handler to the. I have to see why the thing. This is expecting 2 arguments. Passing through it works. I don't know why it's broken or why writers complain. We're saying we want to capture the click event for the pin layer. So that's the layer we just added. When a click happens, all the pin clicked. Simple enough. So it passes in an argument, which we call E, call it any standard. Then we're going to look to see if there are any shapes involved. Shapes are those individual pushes. And the reason why they're called shapes is because those shapes can actually be anything. We go and look at the sample, this sample here. This is the maps that use pins, and you can see that the events are happening, but you can actually change them to anything you want. What am I? Events. Let's go to add it. Oh, here it is. Add symbol layer. So this is what the default looks. It's the pin underscore 37 or 7 or 29. That's just a sample. It's a number. But for the icon, the default is marker blue, which is I like because it fits with the theme, but you can do black, you dark blue, you can do a pin with a hole in it, you pin round red. There's lots of different options across the board for them. You can also have your own custom shapes or your own custom icon. So that's why I kind of left those, or that's why you look at the shapes to see what comes back in there, because something could be clicked elsewhere. Code, window, code. So we say if the shape was greater than 0, that means we're actually in a shape that was clicked. Get the event IDs. Taking a look at the shape, taking the first shape, because they could be a couple of shapes on top of each. Ideally, we can handle that, but usually aren't 2 events happening at the same place on the same date. Then we're going to look at the data property of it, and then look at the properties. So this goes in back to that data source that we pass in a property called event ID and event name. So we want that event ID. Then we just call window open event URL / event ID in a new blank. So open up in a new tab. And all that is here we generate URL based on the event controller details action. So that creates the www.event name /event type / the word event / details. Then we have to add the /ID at the end. And that is pretty much it. Oh, but one other thing we did here was a function to center the maps. So if we remember the page, so here and do 503, or I don't check it. Maps. Maps, or is it? Or maps. You know, project. Gotta stop the project. Localhost 503. Didn't stop the project. Oh, it's not HTTP. So this center, you're looking in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. So there, see, but over in this way, you'll notice that it's saying we're just calling this URL. Essentially, if I view the source here, now you can see it says JavaScript center map and then the coordinates. So that just ends up calling this function here that calls a method on the map to say center it based on that new. So if we scroll back to this, by the way, I also changed this from the table we were using to a more modern style with the cards. So here we just replace the blank anchor tag that we had at the time to say call the center map function, passing in the venue, longitude, latitude. I then changed the name to center instead of the IDs. We're not showing the ID and showing the names on it because the old big map there was X. That was pretty much it. Relatively simple once I got past. Did most of this last night, about an hour. Most of that was just really figuring where data was. I'm going to probably put together a sample app over the weekend with it that anyone can use. I'll show basic API with some properties. App should be pretty easy. Something to get around. So that was it for mapping. Again, let's take a look at it. We have the dragging, dropping. If I decide I want to add a different name, I can center on something. Let's say jam sessions now. Moves it. Zoom out very differently. And now if I hit the center, the Women Expo is in the middle of the water, right in the Great Mississippi. Same thing with Tech Ed Welcomers. Let's go see where the jam session. So that one's a little bit cleaner. And it's actually in a place. This was that. It's the streets. If I remember that. It's been a while since I don't remember what this that is. It doesn't matter. I must say I wouldn't mind going back there. So next thing where you need to work on is either the photos piece or the ability to edit. I have a funny feeling the edit event is a lot items to it, including drop down lists and data validation. We're going to want to put something around here to find the actual venue. The good thing is the SDK for the maps has a search that would allow us to find venues. In the past, I was using a Foursquare API to find for it and get the coordinates for that. I think we can, search for addresses. So we're gonna probably end up doing this on Monday. I think we'll have a stream on. I'll have a stream next week. I'm speaking at, I think it's this event, Hampton Roads, on Tuesday. So kind of prep up for it. And Thursday, speaking, bugging tips and tricks with Visual Studio on Thursday. And I might be speaking somewhere else on Friday. So next week, there might not be too many streams, or I might stream later than normal. But we will want to focus on this edit, which definitely is searching. The advanced research on it. Just geocoding. Yeah, this is what we're gonna probably call right away. Just have to figure out how. No, this is what I want. Get POE by name. POI is points search supplies, addition query parameters. Cool. So we're gonna probably end up using get search by or the get search at. I think the get search POI is gonna take quickly. Only been going 45 minutes or so. Very. Oh. This looks like it. The one thing I'm not sure, which is about the Foursquare API, and the Foursquare API might still exist, is that it gave you the ability to search it like an. I don't know if this has that or it may. I just haven't done any research. Majority of my research, click on the link and see what's available. So we will figure it out. See what we can do. Fuzzy search API. Set for address. Search for cross streets. Ooh, let's see the best. So I know. Let's practice Yoko when you search for full partial searchers, API reach keywords from your search, then search results. Bias will probably do that because we're going to set it for that launch. Fuzzy stuff. probably do the point of interest only. But I'm guessing the points of interest will. We're not going to be interested in all this. Really, the only save is this. Ooh, there's a predictive. This is what we want. Search example is queried for micros. So here, the type ahead parameter is set to true. The response. That's cool. Might have to play around with that. Maybe that'll be this weekend. This weekend's fun stuff. That's all I had. I really don't want to go into the edit one. Be a bit much. I might just spend some time building out searching spot for that before I go and write it. See if there's JavaScript implementation somewhere. Hey, you're quite welcome, sir. Sorry, I didn't see your messages. That's it. That's all I got for today. Look forward to a blog post in the next couple of days. Might do it this weekend. It depends. A little bit for the user group talks I have, plus my wife, a bunch of assemble this weekend. Could be doing that. Like what you see, follow me on Twitch at one of the URLs below. If you're watching this on YouTube, like what you see, hit the subscribe button. It's a pleasure chatting with you, even though it was short. Have a great day.